Hello everyone, welcome back to the Clara CFO Group channel. And who has ever been in a situation where taxes are confusing? I have. Even as a CPA, sometimes running a small business can be confusing. There are lots of different tax pitfalls and things that we run into. And the more that we operate in our business, potentially the other, more triggers we have to potentially make a mistake in our taxes. So today I have brought on a tax expert to talk to you about common mistakes that small business owners make and how to avoid them, how to prevent them. And I wanted to show you that she actually wrote a book. So we have, this is the book, The Most Common Tax Mistakes Made by Small Businesses. Really well titled, in my opinion. But Lily Tran, she is an enrolled agent and an author. She wrote this book along with other colleagues and tax professionals. So we are going to interview her today and ask her a bunch of questions. And we've actually got a two-part series here. So we've got the first part is mostly focused on, and that's what we're doing today, is focused on new businesses. As you're starting and you're really getting up and running, how to avoid the mistakes that a lot of new business owners make. And then next week, we're going to post a video for existing business owners, ones that are growing and starting to get more complex in their financial footprint. There's other mistakes that are made there. So we've got lots of great information. Honestly, business owners of all types could listen to both of these videos and they will be super helpful to all of us. Lily is a wealth of knowledge, so we just thank her for coming on to the channel today, and let's go ahead and talk to Lily.
All right. Well, hi, Lily. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Hannah, for inviting me to be here today.
Yeah, well, we are really interested to hear more about you, and it's tax season, and, as you well know, it's tax season, and, I'm a CPA, but I am not a tax person at all. I know enough to refer people to experts, and you are one of those experts. So, Lily, I'd love to hear just a little bit more about your journey. You're an EA and now an author of a book we're going to be talking about. So I'd love to hear from your words, or introduce yourself and hear kind of what brought you to this point and what brought you to write a book.
Yeah. So thank you, Hannah. My name is Lily Tran. I'm an enrolled agent and the founder of TaxUsign. We are a virtual tax firm. We serve clients across the United States. We specialize in taxes. So anything taxes, you think of me. So we provide one-on-one coaching to get small businesses on the right track. We minimize taxes and we save clients at least a minimum of $10,000 per year. We also solve tax problems. So if you're getting audited or you owe taxes to the IRS, we can represent you before the IRS in collections, audits, and appeals.
Nice. And what brought you to writing a book?
Yeah, so pre-COVID, I became a virtual tax firm. And I was asked to be a tax expert on a panel with another L&I, that's labor and industry, and then two attorneys. And so I started to talk about the most common tax mistakes made by small businesses. And from there, I decided, okay, why don't I write a book since I already had the materials? So I started to write this book, and then I realized that I need more information to add to the book because I'm the type of person where when I write something or I talk to clients, I'm very direct. So I don't like to beef up or add more to the story. And so I realized that my chapter would be very short. And so I decided, to ask other friends I knew in the community out of state, here in Washington, if they would be interested in collaborating and writing a chapter in the book. And they were so excited. They were the type where they just wanted to just have me delegate the work to them, and they would just go off and write the chapter.
Well, one thing that I really liked about this, so when I saw this book, it came out because I'm on your email list, and I saw it come out, and I was like, oh man, a book on tax mistakes. I'm not sure I want to read that because, and I'm as a CPA, I'm like, oof, that would be a rough read, but I read it really fast. It was a really easy read, and I loved that there were like different experts from different kind of specialties, so like business insurance or tax strategy and planning. I thought that was really, really smart, and I mean, obviously your chapters were really helpful. And so we're going to get into some of that. So we're going to kind of separate this into what I was noticing, two separate themes. So you had a lot of great advice for people kind of starting their businesses, and kind of some of the mistakes and things to watch out for. And then kind of as you grow, there's other mistakes that businesses are making. So there's mistakes that we could be making everywhere. And I think it's really great that you kind of have, given us some goalposts and given us some guidelines and things to watch out for. So I think I want to kind of start on that new business owner. Let's just say, we have a lot of people who are watching YouTube who are starting out their businesses fresh, or maybe like they've been in the gig economy and they're kind of like, hey, maybe I should make instead of just gigging as a side thing, maybe I should make this more of my main thing. And they're starting to move into that. So we have a lot of people who are, kind of maybe solo business owners, or they're kind of starting out their business. I'd like to kind of start, and this is one of the things where you start the book, is to talk a little bit about business formation. So when you have a new business owner coming to you, like what are the conversations that you're having around forming a business?
One of the most common questions is, what type of business entity should I form? And so the formation, I mean, you can have an attorney and a tax preparer to help you decide which business entity is best for you. But a common mistake that is made, do you want me to add that in?
Yeah.
Because there's a common mistake is that forming your business entity with the state and then creating your EIN. There's two things that we have here. So one is forming your entity with the state, and then when you create your EIN, that tax classification tells the IRS how to tax your business. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's say you're a LLC, single member LLC, but then you apply for an EIN and you're a LLC partnership. Now the IRS will tax you as a LLC partnership, not a single member LLC.
Yeah. So it's like, there's the legal formation you might set up with your state. You're saying like, hey, I'm a limited liability company. But then the IRS also has to know, well, how are you being taxed? And making sure that those two things are in line. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people get confused on, because they're like, wait, I'm a sole proprietorship from the IRS standpoint, but I filed an LLC with my state. So can you explain that, how you could be both?
Yeah, so this is also a common question, is that, well, here in the state of Washington, when you become a single member LLC, the state of Washington recognizes you as, an LLC. It's a state recognized. But with the IRS, whether you're a sole proprietorship or just a single member LLC, the IRS views you as a sole proprietorship. So they don't look at you any differently. The LLC doesn't really change the way the IRS views you. If you're just one person, you're a sole proprietorship.
Okay. And that was one of the huge things that got people really messed up in PPP. So a lot of people came to watch this channel because of the PPP loan, and then people were like, wait a second, I'm an LLC, I shouldn't be going. Yeah, it was a big thing. So that's one thing, kind of understanding your tax formation. Talk to a lawyer, talk to a tax preparer, somebody who can help you understand which is the right one for you. I also see, and you probably see this a lot too, people kind of overdoing it in their formation from the beginning. Do you ever see that? Where they go to like a C Corp or something when they're just a one-person show.
Yeah, I do see that. And it's mostly because they, it's both of like, the client's fault, and whether they go to an attorney or a CPA, is that they will say, I want to become an S Corp. And then the CPA or attorney might not ask the right questions to them, and the clients might not know what questions to ask. And so then they just form an S Corp. And suddenly they're an S Corp and they have no idea how to operate their business as an S Corp. and they have no idea what bookkeeping and taxes, what all the compliance that goes along with that. When I coach clients, they're like, yeah, I'm an S Corp. I'm like, oh, but you just started your business, or you're not making income. Why would you become an S Corp? Yeah. So it's very common to see. And then when they start hearing like all the compliance that they have to do to run an S Corp, they're like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this. I should have asked more questions. But the problem is they don't know what questions to ask.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's a really good tip for people who are starting a business, is just a reminder that like not all tax preparers or not all service providers are going to be asking you questions. They might just think that you know what you want. So I think it's really good and clear. And I always tell people up front, like try to set really clear expectations up front with who you're hiring for this kind of stuff, because there are going to be people like you who really coach people through the process, try to find the best solution for the client coming in. And then there's going to be other people who are like, well, doing an S Corp formation actually like makes me, a certain dollar amount. So I don't really care. I just want to get the money, and they'll just kind of do whatever. Or maybe they just think that you might know, or maybe you've gotten some advice from somebody else. So they'll set up an S Corp for you because maybe they assume you've already had that advice. So I think that's kind of one thing is like, are you hiring a coach? Or are you hiring someone to kind of talk you through? Not like a true coach, like a life coach or a business coach, but I mean, are you hiring a service provider that actually is asking you questions and trying to find the right fit for you? I always tell people it's totally fine to talk to a couple people and see who you can kind of build some, rapport with, see if they're actually like trying to do what's best for you as the client and not just taking blanket advice over across the board.
I believe in education and training. So that's why I spend time educating and training clients to understand like their business entity, how they're taxed. And so it's very common when I'm coaching a client and they're like, oh, well, my friend started a business and he's an S Corp. So I want to be S Corp too, without understanding all of that. And so we do spend time like in coaching sessions is like coaching them and helping them understand like, when you're S Corp, you're an employee. it changes. And then versus you're a single member LLC. So once they understand like everything that's involved, then they're like, maybe I shouldn't be an S Corp.
Well, and you can always, this is another, when you're just starting out, remember that you can change down the road. So if you grow to a place that it makes sense to change your formation, you can change some of that stuff, or at least change how you're taxed. If somebody was set up as an S Corp and they want to back down, and maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but they want to kind of back up and maybe just be taxed as a sole proprietor again, isn't there a certain amount of time they have to wait before they can change their formation or change the way that they're taxed with the IRS? Like not formation, change the way they're taxed.
It's a little bit complicated than what many people think, is that trying to convert like an S Corp back to like, let's say LLC or a sole proprietorship, it's a lot harder to do it that way. There's a lot of forms that need to be completed to go back. Otherwise, people think that, oh, well, I will just shut down the S Corp. But when you do that, you become a C Corp. So you don't want to go that way, right? And so, but what I've been noticing in the tax community is that trying to complete all the forms with IRS and writing a letter to the IRS to say, you want to go back to a single member LLC, for example, the IRS is having problems where they don't quite understand, and that because of COVID too, they're making a lot more mistakes along the way. So, if you're in that kind of situation, before you even consider closing, trying to either close and, file a final S Corp or wanting to go back or becoming a C Corp, is really talk to a tax professional. A tax professional can give you tax advice, but then, attorney can give you legal advice. So sometimes I do get clients ask me about business formation, but then they start asking me legal questions that I can't answer. That's not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that makes sense. So better when you're first starting out to do a little bit of investment on the front and get the right advice to start the formation out on the right path before you kind of have to go and backtrack in any kind of way. I'd love to know how, kind of on this, when you're first starting out your business, do you have any kind of like guidelines or recommendations? One of the things you mentioned in the book is about like a lot of people are not doing bookkeeping, or not keeping an accounting system. So do you have any recommendations on how soon someone should set up and start an accounting system if they're brand new and just started a small business?
Yeah, so if you're just starting a business, and I know when it comes to like when you're starting the business, you don't have the funds because you're investing your own money into the business. And so there's no certain amount of money that you need to make to, buy an accounting software or hire a bookkeeper. But I do have a story to share.
Okay.
So
Perfect.
a client of mine, she started a construction business. And so she said, okay, I don't have the funds to pay a bookkeeper. So I will just go ahead and purchase QuickBooks Online, right? So she buys QuickBooks Online. She's like, oh, this is very easy. I can do invoices. I just need to classify transactions and I'm good. So 3 years later, she comes and she's like, I want to hire you, Lily. She was a referral. She hired me. I looked at her books. It was a complete mess. And I had advised her. My job as a tax advisor was to advise her, we need to clean up the books because the tax returns are inaccurate. And so I told her that, and she said, no, let's just forget about that. Let's just move forward and just, do it right moving forward. So we did that. Down the road, Department of Revenue, Washington State Department of Revenue, audit her. And they looked at those past years and they said, okay, you owe $50,000 in taxes. And she's like, what? And so, with her stories, I mean, she's just one of many. And I just finished another audit, similar scenario too. So there's not an amount that, you need to make to invest in a bookkeeper or an accounting software. It's really about how important your business is. The investment, it will save you money now than years down the road to try to fix your books, right? Because now, if down the road you made mistakes along the way, it's going to cost more to hire a bookkeeper to search what the problem is and fix your mistakes. So you can save money now so you have to look at it. Do you want to save money now or do you want to spend more money later on? That's how I see it.
I agree. And I think even, I'm going through times when I've needed to clean up somebody's books before and knowing that like maybe they were trying to do it internally and then they kind of had to bring me in to sort of, come and sort of fix the problems. It was like every single transaction took maybe 10 times the time to fix it than it would have been to just do it right to begin with. It is exponential time investment. And as time goes on, bookkeepers get more and more expensive. So if you're really going to think about it from a, do we invest now or do we invest later? Or even the people who say, oh, I don't do anything during the year, but then like at the end of the year, I drop off a box of receipts and then my bookkeeper or my accountant just takes care of everything. It's like, just these incremental wins and incremental bookkeeping, like if you keep up with it over time, it is just a lesser cost. And it's a lesser cost. And it also gives you the benefit of having some financial data, which can be invaluable to have that in a more timely manner. And just kind of a tip for people who are wanting to maybe get started on an accounting system, but funds really are like a problem right away. There are accounting systems that are either, a part of another software you might be using or something like Wave that's free. You can use it. I mean, I personally like QuickBooks Online. I'm not sure. What do you prefer for small business?
I use QuickBooks Online and Xero. And so sometimes when you do connect with a bookkeeper or a tax preparer who provides bookkeeping services, they can get you discounts on the software. And so, yes, I agree with you. It is an investment right now. And there are ways where you can find like Wave is free. There are some free softwares available. I mean, most popular is like using Excel, but even using Excel is, you want to at least hire someone to review it, because what I find out is that businesses, when they're starting out, they'll use Excel, and then when it's time to pay taxes, guess what? Now they're paying double taxes. And I have caught many of them. It's like, do you want to, you like when you're starting out, you don't have the background, so you want to hire someone who has the background to help you make sure you're getting on the right track, so that you continue on the right track.
Absolutely. And I think like that kind of goes to one of my questions. I was thinking, like, if somebody had $1,000 to put to, maybe getting their, finance set up in their business when they first started. So maybe they started with $10,000 in a business, and maybe they wanted to allocate, 10% of that to accounting. Where would you have somebody put $1,000 in their first year?
So I would take that $1,000 and invest in some classes and workshops to because there are workshops available, like let's say SCORE, Business Impact Northwest, Ventures. They offer workshops for new business owners, and it helps you like with your business plan, your marketing, your finances, and from there, taking those courses will help you like the teachers, the instructors in there will lead you to like a bookkeeper or a tax preparer or more resources that is available for you.
Yeah, I would say too, like, maybe a consultation with like somebody to make sure your business formation is correct, maybe something like that. And then, a couple courses. I mean, there's a lot of free stuff online for courses too. I had somebody recently remind me that the library also has a lot of courses for things like, make sure you check out your local library, because there's a lot of like really great information. And of course, YouTube. I mean, we're here to help teach people, but I think there's a lot of really awesome education. And then locally is a great place to look for resources on, your local tax requirements, because sometimes those, like you mentioned, a Washington state audit, it's much more likely probably for you to get audited by your local, jurisdictions or your local or state jurisdictions before like an IRS audit. Would you agree?
It really depends. So the one that I recently just finished with the audit was Washington State Department of Revenue. And the way that works is that if Washington State Department of Revenue audits you, they send an audit report to the IRS. Now that opens the door for, let's say you have employees, department, the Employment Security Department, labor industry can audit you. So it just opens more and more doors. And so that is just opportunities for you to be proactive and really go and see like, okay, now you got audit. Do we need to amend returns, or do we just sit and wait for the IRS to come and audit you and send you letters? And
yeah, that's a good point. I think because I'm in Washington State as well, I think I've had most of my Washington clients have had a Department of Revenue audit at this point. And, it's like, okay, cool. Like, it hasn't been a big deal because we've been keeping up with everything. And so it's just like, okay, maybe like do this a little bit differently, but like overall not huge liabilities or anything like that. But I think it's always good to kind of know where your exposure is. So that is another thing you talk about in the book. And just a reminder for people, if you want to grab a copy, it is in the description box below. You can get this on Amazon. And then if you're local in the Seattle area, a couple local bookstores are carrying it as well. We talked about a lot of things, and I think let's we'll kind of wrap up on the kind of newer businesses, starting a newer business. Sometimes the tax compliance and maybe like the fear of getting it wrong could potentially stop someone from either going big and growing their business or even starting a business to begin with. So what is your message to somebody who is trying to decide, whether or not to kind of step fully into the entrepreneur life, or just kind of stay back and be an employee and, do something else? What's your message to the new entrepreneur?
Okay, so this is what my son said, and and if you grab my book, I do talk about my son in here, and he really inspired me because back then I wasn't quite sure if I even wanted to become an entrepreneur. I just had, the thoughts of becoming an employee because, there's so much fear about like, oh, now I don't have a stable income, the fear of doing things wrong, just so many fears. And he had told me like, Mom, if you just keep doing your best, you'll never fail. And that just really stuck to me even to this day, is that you're going to learn, you're going to make mistakes, and it's okay. There are professionals you can hire who can help you fix things along the way. And so, try to educate yourself, read as many books, talk to as many tax professionals you can. Let's say you're a photographer, there's communities of photographers that you can learn from. You can ask them a lot, questions about like when they started, how did they start, what software should you use. Every community I can think of, even my community, tax community, there are so many available out there, like on tax Twitter and on Facebook, that I turn to whenever I run into some issues, whether it's with my clients or just something in my practice, is I reach out to someone who's already been there or who have already been running their business for years, like who has more experience than I do, is to turn to them. And, also to find a mentor, because having a mentor to just take you under your wings and take you, right, to help you along your journey will help you grow. So like my mentor was my former boss. I had talked about him in the book as well, and I still keep in touch with him. He helped me learn about taxes. He's the one who helped me learn about enrolled agent. Had no clue what that was when I first started. And so he even helped me get my first client. So there will be people along the way, they want to see you succeed. There's no one who wants to see you fail, but probably yourself. And so it's really other people who want to see you succeed. So
that's great. I love that. And, I think one thing that always comes to mind is like, everything is figure outable. I forget who coined that term, but everything is figure outable. But I think that's, there's lots of resources. There's lots of things and people we can learn from. So, none of this should be too intimidating so that you don't start something that you're really passionate about. And, somebody can help you figure out the tax compliance part. And somebody can help you make sure your bookkeeping is set up correctly. And somebody can help you on the finance side if that is not your strength. So just remember that, you guys. It's, there's lots of people out there who can help. And lots of good systems and stuff we can get in place as well. So we'll put resources and we'll put links to everything in the description box below. So make sure you check that out. Make sure you grab a copy of this book. It has lots of different topics here to help you think about things. And then, we're going to kind of wrap up this that's mostly focused on new business owners. And we're actually going to have another segment that will be a part 2, where we talk a little bit more about existing business owners who are, growing their businesses and the types of things that they should be thinking about, maybe some mistakes that they're making along the way. So, Lily, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And we will have you back for part 2 in just a little bit. So thank you.
Great. Thank you so much.
All right, if you found that helpful, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up because we appreciate it and it will help somebody else hopefully avoid tax mistakes if they're watching this video and listening to this content. So please be sure to share this also with any friends that you know that might get confused with taxes from time to time. All right, well, thanks again for watching and we'll see you next time.